Hello guys and gals, welcome back to another episode of Haunted Gaming. This time we do a creepypasta called Action Man, Mission Extreme. The creepypasta begins with the police investigating an apparent suicide of a 7-year-old boy on the 28th of June 2000. The boy was found with a PlayStation controller wire around his neck. Police checked that no one really forced entry into the house, and they didn't even consider the mother as a suspect. The police couldn't figure out a motive no matter how hard they tried. So they decided to investigate the game inside the PlayStation. The game was called Action Man Mission Extreme, and it was rated 3+, so they assumed the boy wouldn't have been too shocked by anything in the game. But since it was their only lead, they had to investigate it. The front cover showed Action Man standing with arms folded with an explosion behind him. The box art was odd and had some differences from all the other box arts of the game. For example, the game's type title would be spelled Operation Extreme or Mission Extreme, but never Mission Extreme. The way you're seeing it spelled on the screen right here. In fact, some characters in box art had some minor differences, and some also looked as if they were frightened. The police thought it was a misprint and decided to overlook it and carry on. The game started with Action Man performing several martial arts moves. When gameplay finally started, Action Man had to save the city from criminals who were stealing components. Action Man was receiving orders from a computer with a female voice. Nothing really happened that was considered out of the ordinary. On the second level, Action Man had to infiltrate a desert base, and that was used to manufacture chemical weapons. Other detectives began to lose interest, but one detective said he would keep playing to see if anything weird would show up. Even though in a kid's game there shouldn't be any desert bases making chemical weapons. But anyways, let's move on. The detective began noticing some weird things, such as the enemies not having any lethal weapons, and sometimes they would run away from Action Man, and whenever a mission was completed, it would say the enemies are captured instead of dead. The detective assumed this was because of the 3+ rating. So the detective kept playing mission after mission, but again nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The detective then reached a cutscene where Action Man was captured by his enemies and put into a prison cell. Action Man was then brutally beaten and tortured to the point where it was really disturbing for children. In this mission, Action Man had to just escape from the boat that he was captive on by escaping from the hold, and while the detective was playing this mission, the camera started to become fuzzy and flicker. During this time, the enemies would hold up their hands, but Action Man still shot them regardless. Then the game and camera returned to normal. The detective completed the mission and sank the boat, and captured all the soldiers and the leader. The next mission started and Action Man had to take down enemy boats. Eventually, a transmission came through his radio from his enemies. The transmission was a compilation of white noise and screaming sounds. Action Man's commander, the computer woman, told him to eliminate all resistance in a cold, calculating tone. Action Man then sunk the enemy sub and laughed as he saw the corpses of the dead soldiers sinking to the bottom of the lake. The detective started to get worried about the game and even noticed that the capture counter had increased even though the enemies appeared to have died in the game. The final mission started called Ice Base, and it began with Action Man using a longbow to eliminate all the guards, who were all unarmed. The detective kept going through many corridors. None of the enemies fought back and started to scream at the sight of Action Man. Eventually, pictures of homicide flashed on the screen and the detective got up and ejected the disc but reinserted it and just blamed his tiredness for all the visions. The detective finally reached the boss, Dr. X. The boss battle was very easy, and all the detective had to do was run backwards and shoot the doctor, and eventually beat the doctor once his suit collapsed. These steps would have to be repeated every time the suit's energy would come back. After defeating the final boss, the endgame cutscene began. With the Arctic base exploding in flames, the camera then switched to a crowded city with civilians choking to death and photos of people dying from chemical weapons. Yeah, 3+ game. Action Man was leading Dr. X into a prison cell and locked him away and just went away. Dr. X started to claw at the walls and scream as the camera panned towards Action Man's face. Credits silently rolled, and afterward, childhood photos were displayed next to the developers' names. But the detective just didn't care and got ready for bed. Apart from the photos and the morbid sense of the game, the detective never saw anything unordinary. Okay? The detective glanced back at some photos and noticed that they were of the kids who were murdered. Some of them from the Moore murders, and one picture of a bearded Action Man called Alex Mann. The picture zoomed in and white noise played. The detective hadn't shown up for work later, and some investigators then went over to his house to notice that he was dead on the sofa. He had clawed out his own eyes. The television was turned on and a grinning picture of Action Man was displayed with text underneath stating, "We hope you enjoyed playing Mission Extreme, but you have now been captured." So, this creepypasta, I think it's pretty decent, and as far as cliches it went, they really weren't that many, and hell, they weren't even close to ruining the overall experience. The creepypasta was morbid, and the suicides of both the child and the detective had me wondering one thing. What did they see on the screen that was so bad that it made them kill themselves? It surely would have made Squidward's suicide pale in comparison. Some of the good things I found were the build-up of what happened and how it spanned through the majority of the game, going from completely normal to extremely morbid, for the levels that were retained, because we do know some levels were omitted when the creepypasta stated the detective went through mission to mission, but for the levels that were retained, I was glad to see a new anomaly for us to see, and it just kept on getting stranger every time. It was a good touch in my opinion. I tried searching for Action Man, and I found that Alex Man is the name of Action Man, and that the Moore murders actually did exist. They were a set of murders carried out by Ian Brady and Myra Hindley between July 1963 and October 1965, in what is now known as Greater Manchester, England. I guess this was included for a better sense of authenticity, more realism, and really for a sense of locale, since the rating that was given was 3+, which is a PEGI rating that is used in the European video gaming market. So yeah, I guess it was really given for a sense of locale. The one thing that really kind of, almost broke the creepypasta for me was the violence, which I wish was a little toned down because, it almost broke it for me. One thing that really did raise, some eyebrows for me was the detective. I just thought that the detective should have, a lot of the events in this, way before the end, was really, shocking, such as the use of chemical weapons and Action Man getting tortured for a 3+ game. I wish some of those things were toned down so that the detective's reactions to these things could be more realistic in what, he was experiencing at the time and what he was investigating, which was a 3+ game that contained the use of chemical weapons and torture. I don't know. But even though there are some flaws, I think it's a pretty okay creepypasta. It has good atmosphere, build-up, and plenty of detail, and although there are flaws at times that almost break the experience, it still manages to stick together and deliver an enjoyable creepypasta. What would you rate this, and what would you change to make it better? And if you have a creepypasta that you think is really good, please write in the comments below, and if it gets a top rating, then it'll most likely be in a future Haunted Gaming. So if you like what you saw, then like, comment, and subscribe. This has been another episode of Haunted Gaming. This is me, Mudahar, from Some Ordinary Gamers, and I'm out.